Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 4
of TTS Talk.
That's 8. Yeah, it's like episode 8, you would do that. This is
People
episode
know
4.
this is 4.
You got a 4-year-old. How old are you, Ruben? 8.
4. I don't think people are going to see that as 8. This is 8. This is 8.
Just because one hand has 5, the other one has 3.
They know it's a secret.
Welcome to episode number 4 of
TTS
Talk. Once again, my name is Chris Tutela.
And my name is
You're
Ruben
jumping the gun on me.
I think it works. Somebody say, my name is Chris
Talking
Tutela.
baboon.
Good.
My name is Chris Tutela.
My name is Ruben Borges.
And welcome
to TTS Talk 4.
Episode 4.
Episode 4, yeah, let's do this.
Alright, so guys, now that that's out of the way, we're going to jump right into this.
We have a very interesting topic. Coach, what you got?
So here's the deal. A lot of people are married to the idea of the big lifts. The bench press, the squat, the deadlift, the military
and
press.
just using the barbell.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, and they're stuck in the idea of they just have to push numbers using the barbell and never making any modifications to those movements. Well, we're here to tell you guys today that you could still get strong, you could still pack on muscle without using those movements. So if you're a little banged up, you got some shoulder issues going on, or maybe you got some lower back issues going on, it may not be, or it isn't in your best interest to keep trying to push numbers and just be married to a straight bar all the time. So what Coach and I want to do today is go over some variations that you could do and modifications that you could make to your program to not only make it safer, but to make it more beneficial for you and also give you some variety in your training so you're not bored to tears every time you walk into the gym. Just going in bench, squat, deadlift, bench, squat, deadlift. You get bored out of your mind. So, Coach, let's kick this off with you because you had a pec injury. First of all, let's talk about how that injury came about and what happened.
So, I was kind of a guy who loved benching. It's one of my favorite exercises, barbell bench pressing. I hit all variations. I would use dumbbells, incline, decline, everything. The beginning years of my life when I first started bench pressing from 18 to 23, let's just say, Coach, I was probably not using the best technique or form. We're all in high school, we're all in college. Ego's an issue. We just want to push weight and go through and push up numbers. From years of doing that and also playing baseball, I had some weak shoulders, weak tendons, and one day I was kind of training towards powerlifting meet. I wanted to give it a shot, so I was pushing some heavy weight, and I tore my major tendon right off the bone.
Pec major tendon.
Yes, and that was rough. It completely tore right off.
What was the recovery? How long was that recovery?
6 months.
Right.
It was 4 to 6 months. I would say after 12 weeks, I was able to kind of lift lightly, go to rehab and things like that, physical therapy. And I would say literally at 6 months is when I was able to kind of strength train a little bit, start picking up the weight a little. But that opened me up to, listen, I don't barbell bench press anymore.
A lot of different variations.
A lot of different variations. I'm a huge fan of push-ups, variation of push-ups, whether it be loaded push-ups, different angle push-ups, hitting high reps, and I also love using dumbbells. And the dumbbells can be used at all different angles of the bench. You could be on the floor, unilateral bench pressing. I mean, everything.
Right.
I touched it all, and that's been extremely beneficial for me. Also, concentrating on more attention of the muscle being used, and that's been a game changer for me, Coach.
As you can see, this guy is still handsome and still jacked. I don't know about handsome, but he's pretty jacked.
No, today's pretty good. I got the beard a little bit.
So you're handsome, Coach. Don't worry.
Thank you.
So the point is, he doesn't do much straight bar bench pressing anymore. But he's still strong. He still packs on muscle, right? So there's a ton of different variations that Ruben uses in his training now, instead of just coming in and hitting the bench press all the time. So some of the variations that he uses and that we'll use for our members here, and some of our favorites. Just to keep this simple today, we'll give you 1 or 2 variations for each exercise.
Okay.
So instead of thinking of the bench press as like this end-all, be-all movement, let's think of the movement pattern instead. So the movement pattern is a horizontal press, right? So in that horizontal press, right, of this movement pattern, we could take different variations of that. And one of our favorite ones is, for me, is a floor press variation. And I don't know if you would agree, but I like to use a dumbbell floor press variation because that allows us to now, instead of being married to this position with our hands, because we're holding out to a straight bar, the dumbbells give us a little bit more freedom to move. Now, when you're doing a press from the floor, we're only pressing from our triceps being on the floor to the top position. So that will alleviate a lot of stress on that pec major tendon because we're taking the tension off of the muscle and that soft tissue in the bottom position.
That was what I did first coming back, because before going full range.
Right.
That was a big help for me.
Because you have to work back into that range of motion. So everybody's different. There's not one exercise that's going to be the best for you, but that's one exercise that you could work into your training program. Now, if you have no injuries, still work that into your program, and that could still be one of your main lifts for the day. You could still come in and say you're working up to a 5 RM, right? You're working up to a 5 rep max. You could work up to a 5 rep max, excuse me, on a dumbbell floor press. And to take it a step further, maybe you want to work in a little bit more core stability, you could turn that into a 1-arm floor press. And the possibilities are endless there. What would you say another top variation? So we have the dumbbell floor press or the single arm dumbbell floor press. What would be another variation that you would say these guys could work on?
Another variation, but to touch on the floor press, another thing, it's a safe way also to keep loading. So sometimes, you like lifting heavy, it's a great safe way to lift heavy because you're not really stressed.
In the bottom range,
Really develop power and tricep, but Coach was saying if you're 100% healthy, it's a great way to develop tricep strength to improve your bench as well.
Yeah, if you want to get strong, that's something that can help you break through a plateau. So you're kind of training from the sticking point. So if you're failing at your bench attempts here, working in a floor press variation starts from the bottom, from that dead stop position, static position, to here. So we're going to place more of an emphasis on the triceps, because that's where you're getting stuck and that's a weak point. So what would you say another variation would be?
One of my favorite variations is the push-ups. Touch up on the variations of the push-up, but weighted push-ups. It helps when you have a partner there to hold the weights on your back. If you have good stability strength, you're able to keep your hips up and you've conquered the push-up, you can do more than 20, more than 30. I've worked up to like 5 rep maxes in weighted push-ups. I felt good, a lot of muscle recruitment involved, and in a safe way, I was in some heavy weight. And that was one of my favorites. Your shoulders are in a very safe, optimal position, good angle. As long as the hips are up, you're getting full retraction and protraction of your scapula, coming right up, squeezing the pecs tight up top. That was where it filled the void of bench pressing and lifting those heavy weights and having that angle. I missed barbell bench pressing. That filled the void. I love push-ups. I'm a big fan of it. I'm able to really build strength through it. And I think that's something to kind of look up to and try. If you're able to do more than 20 or 30 push-ups, body weight, with good form, good technique, I would get on, start working, progressing your way up to some weighted push-ups. You can, for example, do like 3 sets of 8 of weighted push-ups. Better with a training partner so they can put it on the middle of your back, and we can kind of go over that again.
Yeah,
kind of
and there's different ways. You could add chains to your back where if you don't have a partner, or a weighted vest would be great. If you don't have a training partner, definitely throw a weighted vest on. That goes a long way too. Yeah,
that variation is definitely one of my favorites because you can kind of keep getting stronger in a very safe manner.
And to build off that, that gives you the variety. So if you want to test yourself on the push-up, you don't have to just come in and just do reps and reps and reps. At some point, if you're doing 100 push-ups every day, you're just going to be bored out of your mind with that shit if you're really good at them. So that's a way to progress the push-up. And now, say you might be somebody watching that can't do 1 push-up. If that's the case, there could be a million factors. It could be core stability. You might just have too much body fat, or maybe you're just too weak to do a push-up right now. But you could work in eccentric push-ups where you're just starting from the top, and say we give you a tempo like 5 second eccentric, where you could start from the top, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 4 5 until your chest is on the ground. Put your knee down, reset the top position, and then work your way back down to the bottom range with using that eccentric loading.
Yeah.
You want to show him? Show him?
Yeah, let's look at the video.
All right. He just wants to demonstrate. He wanted to show the girls his butt. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Knee goes down, reset the top, and then you would repeat. He wants to repeat it again. Okay, he's just showing off now. Okay, we get the picture, Coach. Yeah.
Coach, what is the next movement we got?
Okay. Excuse me. So the next exercise that we could talk about, because I don't think I've ever seen, I shouldn't say ever, but maybe 1% of the time I see proper technique with a squat.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I'm talking about in the public gym, right?
Yep. And what would you say the reason would be for that?
Oh, I mean, there's a zillion reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I would say ego is one, because guys always try to go too heavy.
The biggest one.
Mobility, weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many different components to that. But what I would say is now, like we talked about, I think it was episode 1, learning how to move properly in the movement pattern. So let's just assume you know how to move properly in that movement pattern, and you can do a squat to full depth. The knees are aligned with the toes, the spine stays neutral, your heels are flat on the ground, everything that you know about a squat. Let's say all technique is in check, right? But maybe you have some lumbar disc issues. Maybe you have some shoulder issues. So we're going to give you 2 variations here. One is going to be the goblet squat, and we could do that. There's actually variations of the goblet squat where you could load it with kettlebells, or you can load it with a dumbbell, and then a safety bar squat. So if you're using a goblet squat variation, that's where we're going to either load the dumbbell or the kettlebells in front of you. So now there's no direct spinal loading where we're not compressing the spine. So if you have disc issues, you don't want to add a load to the spine where now we're compressing those discs even more, because that could lead to a rupture or really serious injury, right?
And to let everyone know, like, this goblet squat is working the same muscle groups.
It's just a different loading. It's just a different position, right? So the goblet squat would be one of the safer ones, right? So now another issue with a squat, a lot of guys have shoulder issues, right? So if you don't have great shoulder mobility, trying to reach back and grab a barbell, that's putting a lot of stress on these shoulders here.
Yeah.
So that's where, if you guys know what a safety squat bar is, we have them here at TTS, but if you don't know what it is, just Google it real quick. But a safety squat bar, we're going to put more of the load over the shoulders, so it's not directly on the spine, but it's also now your grip on the bar. You have handles sticking out here, so think of like one of those horse collar things, right?
Yeah.
So it's here, and now we could grab on to the handles out here. So now look at the difference on the angle of my shoulder from here to here, where it's out in front of me.
Yeah.
So now I'm not putting that stress on my shoulders. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on those 2 variations.
Well, it's so much easier to maintain a proper position, especially with your spine. So even when people can properly do a barbell back squat, that's a lot of stress on the shoulder, and sometimes through multiple reps, as you're getting weights off, higher risk of losing proper positioning, where with the safety bar you can maintain that proper position a lot longer as you go heavier and keep loading.
Yeah, and then a front squat would be another variation that we could give you too, just to give you a little bonus in there too, where we're going to load the anterior side of the body rather than loading your back with a barbell. You could load the front side, and there's different variations of that as well. One of my favorite, like if you might not have great mobility in your wrists or forearm flexibility, that's where you could either wrap straps around the bar and then grab onto the straps, or you could do like bodybuilding style, where you kind of load the bar on your shoulders, cross your hands, and just elevate your elbows. But with that, if you're healthy and you have good mobility, it's still a good idea to use specialty bars, goblet squat variations, front squat variations, because now you're developing more core stability and core strength and hitting the musculature from a different angle, from a different position. So that's going to help you with your overall strength. So if you are somebody who's like, hey, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I want to push the numbers on my back squat, and that's something that's a goal of yours, and again, assuming that your movement is up to par, then changing the variations, that's only going to be to your benefit, all right?
Keep the muscles guessing. I think another thing, if you have trouble with full range of motion, let's say you can barbell squat pretty well, and you have no full range of motion's rough, hitting a front squat, goblet squat, you can kind of really develop that and work that range of motion. No restrictions in your back. As you're in the front, you can really see it too as you get a lot stronger and get a little more mobile. And if you're able to get full range on a goblet squat or a front squat, then you can kind of try the barbell back squat again.
Right. No doubt. Now, the deadlift. All right, and I wanted to save this one. Well, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about the military press too, but I want to talk about the deadlift because the deadlift is a great exercise. But I think especially now, these days, the deadlift has become so popularized that everybody wants to do the deadlift, and we talk about deadlift parties and doing all this shit. And now, here's the thing. The truth is, most of the general population should not be deadlifting with a straight bar. Okay,
they're not ready for it.
Well, they don't really have the mobility, and well, let's talk about mobility. So, a lot of times with the general population, you'll see people get into the bottom or the setup of a deadlift, but they don't have the proper mobility to maintain a neutral spine, which means from head to tailbone, we're keeping the spine neutral. So what happens is, we're so tight and restricted that we start to round. How am I looking, cameraman? Am I in the screen here?
You're a little too close to me.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
Don't look me in the eyes. So when you're in this position, a lot of people are doing this because they don't have the mobility. So they're taking the spine out of its natural curvature, and they're setting themselves up for disaster because this is where you're vulnerable now, right? So you want to maintain a neutral spine, but so low here, it's tough for people that don't have the mobility or the strength to pull from the floor and maintain that neutral spine. So you could adjust. I just wanted to go over that. So with that said, some variations of that. One would be a trap bar deadlift. It's one of my favorite exercises because it has, and I'm talking about a high-handled trap bar deadlift.
You can maintain a neutral spine a lot easier.
Because now the handles are higher, you don't have to get so close to the ground. Okay, so I like it for that reason. Just keep in mind that if you're programming trap bar deadlifts, you have to program a little bit more posterior chain work, like Romanian deadlifts, because the trap bar deadlift has places a little bit more emphasis on the quad. You're still going to be hitting the posterior chain, but not as much as you would with a straight bar. So program more Romanian deadlifts and good mornings and stuff like that, so you're hitting that posterior chain a little bit deeper. Now, let's talk about the straight bar deadlift, assuming that you could pull with a neutral spine. Okay. One thing that a lot of people do is they use a mixed grip. Now, if you're a competitive power lifter, it's your sport, it's what you're doing. Right, you're training to push numbers. But just understand that when you're using a mixed grip, and for people that don't know, it's when one hand is pronated and one hand is supinated. This supinated arm, there's a lot of stress on that bicep tendon. And that could kind of lead to overcompensation of people trying to maybe pull or curl a little bit with that bicep.
Especially through that sticking point.
Now think about it, when you have 300, 400 pounds in the bar and you're pulling through a sticking point, and you may start to try to do this a little bit, or let's just forget about that. The bicep's tight, and now you're in the supinated position, especially guys. That's putting so much stress on the bicep that results in bicep tears. So just be mindful of that. Like if you're not a competitive power lifter, it's a better idea to pull with a pronated grip. Yeah. That's another reason that I like the trap bar deadlift, because it's neutral handles, so you don't have that stress on the bicep tendon.
And I know it's not beneficial if you hit the overhand grip that you would say can't lift this heavy. So if you're let's say your max is 400 with the mixed grip, what would you say it would be with a double hand?
I don't know exactly, but you're going to lose a percentage for sure. Like it's going to be significantly less. I don't know an exact number off the top of my head, but it's going to be
definitely
less.
Be significantly less. Now, would you recommend now? I still want to kind of lift heavy. Maybe using a strap.
You can use straps, but you'll still be lifting heavy though. You'll still be lifting heavy. You're still going to be pushing. You could still progress, but that means you have to dial in a little bit more on your grip strength, right? Get your hands strong. Okay, so that would be the trap bar deadlift is one variation of the deadlift that I would suggest, right? Now, if that is maybe that the mechanics aren't there yet, and you have a tough time because it is a compound movement. It may be easier, from my experience, I found that it's easier for people to learn just a hip hinge, learn that, and then you could progress that. So using like a suitcase RDL using dumbbells, where now we're holding dumbbells at our sides, and instead of going all the way to the floor, you're just doing a hinge and bringing your hips through, obviously contract the glutes and all that stuff, but it's not a full deadlift to the floor. So there's a suitcase variation, there's a barbell variation,
And if someone's kind of close with the barbell variation coach, I think another one would be kind of elevate the bar. Maybe there's some plates on the plate, so maybe you can't get that low.
Rack pulls.
Could, yeah, hit some rack pulls too.
Or pull from mats.
Yeah. Where, all right, so I can't get that low because the lower I get, I start running my back. But from this position, I'm optimal. My spine is neutral. And you kind of could develop from there because as it gets better, it gets stronger, and maybe test it out again, going from the floor.
And if you use a pronated grip hitting rack pulls, because most of the time you're going to be pulling more weight from the rack because of the limited range of motion. So if you're able to pull more weight and you're using a pronated grip, that's a good way to get your hands and your forearms stronger as well in that movement pattern. So the variations would be a trap bar deadlift. If you're going to pull from the floor with a straight bar, I would say use a pronated or double overhand grip. You can use
your power lifter, go double.
Yeah. And now you could also use suitcase RDLs, regular Romanian deadlifts or RDLs with a barbell, rack pulls. Those are your variations. Or the most basic level, a kettlebell deadlift. You could still. Again, it comes down to the movement pattern is more important. And like our boys Joe DeFranco and Jim Smith say, earn your right to deadlift.
That's right.
Earn your right to squat. So if you're new to this, you don't necessarily have to be injured. If you're just new, you have to learn how to progress to those bigger movements.
The hip hinge pattern is the movement we're talking about too. Perfect that pattern before you really get into the deadlift.
No doubt. Okay, so last but not least, the military press.
Yep.
This one's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a lot of different variations you can do, but again, when you're pressing from here, a lot of people don't have the shoulder mobility to press with a straight bar overhead, or if your shoulders are beat up, pressing with a double overhand grip. And you're pressing overhead, that puts a lot of stress on that shoulder, right? So variations that you can do. One of my favorites is just as simple as going to just a neutral grip dumbbell press, where now instead of your elbows being out here, you can now tuck your elbows in, palms are facing each other. It's the same movement, it's the same musculature being trained. We're just adding a little bit more tricep to the equation now. So it's a great way to pack a little bit more size on the triceps, and it's safer on the shoulders. And what would you say one more variation?
Spine is completely neutral, which is great as well.
And you want to give these guys one more variation?
One more variation.
Maybe like a kettlebell. You could do the same thing, like a kettlebell neutral grip.
Even a one arm press, even kneeling one arm presses. Variation.
You're doing a half kneeling kettlebell press or something like that.
So if you're on one knee, arms are out.
Front rack position.
Neutral grip. Because I was able to get that low with the jeans. But it's another great variation, workability as well. One thing I like about the dumbbells, when you're pressing overhead with the dumbbells, your spine is neutral. Where with the barbell, you might tend to hyperextend your lower back as you're pressing and staying in this position. So I always recommend anybody that before they get to a barbell military press, use the dumbbells, press overhead. If you're able to maintain a neutral spine, your core is tight, glutes are tight, spine's neutral, then, like as you were saying before, earn the right to get to the military press.
Right.
But even if you are military pressing fine, everything's good, it's a good time to switch it up because you don't want to be constantly having that movement there and keep going heavy where you're risking lower back issues.
And but the thing is too, like you were saying, when you're going too heavy, whether it be dumbbells or a barbell, you're gonna have that tendency to lean back, and what that does is put a shit ton of stress on the spine. So even if you're pressing with dumbbells, make sure it's an appropriate weight. Don't just try to push numbers where all of a sudden you're doing this shit. Because that's just going to destroy you too.
One that just came to my head now too, I actually do it a lot, the Landmine Press. And I know
Landmine's great.
Landmine's great, it's easy on the shoulders, and if you're not sure what a Landmine Press is, you can definitely YouTube it or find a way.
Come to TTS, try it out.
Give it a shot. It's a barbell basically at a corner of a room, and you're taking the barbell handle, you're kind of in a slight 45-degree angle and pressing overhead, and you can do, obviously one at a time. You're actually able to do it two also. But the one arm unilateral pressing of the shoulder pressing with that Landmine is really beneficial, especially if you're dealing with any shoulder issue. It's a great way to load the movement and be pain-free while building those shoulder boulders.
I see what you did there.
You like that?
You wanted to turn the shoulders into boulders.
That's right.
But he said shoulder boulders.
Dang.
Nice job.
Why is that? He chapstick.
Okay. Yeah, you're not borrowing mine. And he's gonna ask me after we stop.
probably
Talking,
will.
Yo, can I borrow your chapstick?
Put my finger on it. Real quick.
That's disgusting.
Wow, gross.
Yeah, exactly. Cameraman's even grimacing.
She did actually. Yeah,
She's grimacing. All right, so guys,
Yes.
you have some variations now. You can add a little bit more variety into your training. You could also make your training safer. All right, remember, if you're getting injured, you're not going to make progress. You're going to set yourself back. Nobody wants to be injured. Getting injured sucks. So be smart about your training. Work different angles. Work in more variety. And yeah, that's something else.
That's the way to stay consistent and keep that boredom out, Coach, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Changes it up. You want to keep your muscles guessing until you're going to get bigger and stronger.
All right. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Of course, as always, if you're not following us on Instagram, you can follow me at Chris_Tutela, Tutela, or check out my blog, christutela.com, and you can find this crazy lunatic at.
Find my Instagram, guys, at _Ruben, RUBEN, _Borges, BORGES. Coach, great stuff today. I think it was a lot of good info.
Yes, and if you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to shoot me an email, chris@tutelatraining.com, or just comment below, and we'd be happy to answer any of your questions and help. And guys, last but not least, if you found this video to be helpful, if you're enjoying TTS Talk, we got to get the word out there, so we can only ask you to do us a favor, just click the share button, or just text it over to your friends, shoot your friend or family member an email. Just let people know about the show, so this way we can continue to grow our community and help as many people as possible.
Yeah, more topics, more fun.
All right, guys, we will catch you next week on another episode of
TTS Talk.
I still don't get that. I still don't know why you're doing that. We don't plan on doing that. He just does these things.
Because I think it
He
works.
just throws it up.
There's a way. I gotta get it going a little bit.
We'll catch you next week on TTS Talk. Peace.
Dreams do come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. That was good.
Do you want to start the show? Do you want to start the show? Or just,
No, this is good.
you just want to do a wrestling promo?
I think that. 4.
I feel like I have to move my bowels. No, I'm not doing that for that. I really got to shit.
That's gonna take too long because you take like 30 minutes. I've never seen that. You take the longest shits.
I like to relax.
Yeah, but I think there's what else could possibly be going on?
I'm shitting.
Because you're done. I would say you're done. At least in 5 minutes, you're done. Like, what is the other 25 minutes?
It's not 30 minutes.
Yeah, Chris, I remember. Holy smokes! It's there a while, and I think you ran warm-ups from there once. We were doing planks here. We was like, keep it tight. Tight, close tight. They were like, oh, ew.
10 minutes.